Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Mental Training Room. This is your host, Haley Herdman. I'm a former Division I basketball player and current mental health therapist.
And I am Naomi Yim, also a former Division I basketball player and a current real estate investor with a passion for athlete mental health.
Throughout our time as collegiate athletes, Naomi and I struggled with our emotional well-being, and we know from this experience how neglected the mental aspect of sports can be, which is why we created this podcast, to foster a safe space for other athletes to open up about their own experiences.
Whether you are an athlete, coach, parent, or anyone with an athlete in their circle, we hope you can gain some insight from our episodes.
Now, let's get into it. Welcome to the Mental Training Room. Elite athletes know performance isn't just about what you do in the game. It's about how you prepare and how you recover. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Defend USA. If you want to stay in peak shape, you can't afford to ignore the power of recovery. That's where Defend USA comes in. Trusted by the NBA, WNBA, MLB, NCAA, and beyond, Defend USA's compression gear is designed to help you train harder, recover faster, and perform at your best. Their military-grade compression technology boosts circulation, reduces muscle fatigue, and helps prevent injury, so you can push limits without breaking down. That's why the best athletes don't just train hard, they recover smarter. Level up your recovery, level up your game. Check out Defend USA at dfndusa.com and at dfndusa on Instagram, and get the gear trusted by the pros. Because true champions don't just train hard, they recover harder. Hi, Tal.
Hey,
How are you?
good. I'm so good.
Good.
It's a gloomy day in New York, so it's nice to just like stay in the room, stay in the house, not have to leave.
It's kind of gloomy here too, actually. My mom, sister, and I went to brunch and we were sitting outside and then it started raining and we're like, well, that doesn't.
I've heard LA weather's been like hit or miss.
It
Like
really
on
has.
Monday it'll be beautiful and 75, and then on Wednesday it's like torrential downpour and you're like, this doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. It's been really weird. But anyways, to start off, what is one good thing that's happened to you recently, or if there's anything you're looking forward to?
One good thing that's happened, my girlfriend's in town visiting, and my birthday is on Monday. Normally, I used to never like my birthday. Not that I have anything against it. I've had great birthdays growing up, but I hate, with a capital H, hate making decisions. Like I'm very bad at decisions. Your birthday asks of you, like the one most important thing it asks of you, make decisions. Yeah, so every year I'm like, I had 1 year overseas, and two of my teams were like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What do you want this? And I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, guys, nothing. Don't call me until tomorrow. I don't want to do anything. And now I realize why. My girlfriend was amazing. She's like, don't worry. Don't think about it. Don't do anything. Don't. And she planned the cutest surprise party with like my friends. So I was so shocked. So it was really cool.
That's amazing. I feel like I'm the opposite. Do you like to be in control or not really?
It's funny because for situations like these,
Yeah.
no. But
Okay.
like very scared of flying. So, like if I'm driving or if I'm flying or if I'm like I mean I can't fly a plane, but it would be really nice.
Yeah.
But in situations like this, no.
Yeah. For my birthday this year, I had a murder mystery dinner party, and it was like the best thing that I've ever done.
So cool.
Yeah, it was so fun. One of my uncles like planned it. He like made the whole script and everything. So I really didn't do much, but just hosted, and everyone said it was like the most fun birthday party they've ever been to. So I was like, yes. But now I have really high standards for my parties, I guess.
I mean, you set the bar.
Yeah,
You set the
exactly.
But it's like a very creative birthday party, and it's very interactive. So when people are there, it's fun. Like you're never gonna forget a murder mystery birthday party.
And it was Italian mafia themed. But anyways, we're here today to talk about your basketball journey, your journey of life, really. You're such a cool person.
Thank you.
For a little background, Tal and I met on social media just through Instagram, which is really cool. I try not to go on Instagram a lot, but I love moments like that when it can create such a cool connection. And I feel like we talked about like having a lot of mutual kind of friends or followers, but just being able to create that bridge for ourselves and create a new friendship, which is really awesome.
I've made some of my best friendships off Instagram. So
Yeah.
as much as it's like the dichotomy of both, like there's good
Yeah.
and bad, you know, so.
Exactly. Well, why don't you start us off with telling us a little bit about your basketball journey and how that started for you?
Yeah. So my journey is pretty untraditional. I started playing basketball pretty late. I was like 14, 15 years old. I have a twin brother, so like, we'd always play in the backyard and like one-on-one, all those things. But I didn't play competitively until later, which is why my IQ was like never really that good. So I started at 14, 15-ish. I played for this like mom and pop's AAU team. It wasn't very competitive. We're not any circuit whatsoever, but I enjoyed it. And then I went into high school. I didn't go to very competitive high schools, but I was relatively a good player. Like there was a lot of potential. I was just small. I was like 5'4", maybe like 90 pounds. I didn't hit puberty till pretty late. So my basketball journey was very late onset.
Okay.
So I get to high school. I love it. I do pretty well, but I'm like, I'm not good enough to play in college. Like I can't. Like there's no way. These girls are insane. I'm watching them play. I'm like, no, there's no way. And then my high school coach suggested that I call my club coach, who would be my club coach. She's like, call this coach. Tell him you're interested in playing or whatever. And I call him and I look at her. I'm like, okay. And I'm holding the phone ready to call. And I'm like, okay, I can call him, but it's not going to go anywhere. And I'm not playing college. And so I end up calling him. His name's Coach Stan. He coached at West Coast Premier. And I remember getting on the phone with him and I was like, yeah, I'm not like the best basketball player, but I want to play a lot of minutes if I come play. Like this cocky, like for what? So anyways, I call him and I go to the tryout and I play one circuit, like one AAU season. And it worked out. Like I had potential as a player. And so I had a few schools offer me a scholarship. I ended up going to Seattle U. Seattle University, it's a small liberal arts school obviously in Seattle. And it was great. I loved it. I did my freshman year there and it was cool. It was definitely a learning experience. I got there, I was like a little baby freshman, and the team itself was overall like upperclassmen, but I made some of like my favorite friendships on that team. But anyways, I graduated high school, went to play at Seattle U. I had a really good freshman year, not in a cocky way, but my stats were pretty good. I was ranked in two categories, Division 1 top 10. And I was ranked in two categories for Division 1, and I was in the top 10. So I remember after that season, my coaches got fired, or one resigned, and then the coaching staff was like replaced with the new
Yeah.
head coach's coaching staff. I had an ego. I was like, I'm this good. I'm good at basketball. I killed this season. I'm gonna go transfer. I'm gonna play a lot of minutes, and I'll play at a good school. So I remember putting my name in the portal, and it's not what it was now. Like then you had to get permission. I put my name in the portal, and I ended up transferring to UCSB. I had offers from like big schools, but I wanted to play. Like I wanted to play a lot. And now looking back, you can play anywhere. If you are a player in high school and you get recruited to play at UConn and you're worried you're not going to get minutes, you can get minutes. It's just how well do you practice? And it doesn't matter. We're like all women basketball players. It's not this girl is 6'12" and 7'5". We're
Yeah.
pretty it's based on our work ethic and also our skill set, but for the most part, work ethic. So I ended up transferring to UCSB at the bench for 3 years.
Mm.
It was very humbling. Like, I learned a lot about myself. I enjoyed I would do it all over again if I could, but my basketball journey I was always little fish, big pond is what I felt like. Like I was always kind of working and trying to chase like these successes, but I always felt like a victim mindset almost. Like, well, this coach doesn't think I'm good enough. Like, I'm just not playing enough minutes and I should, and I deserve this. And for the most part, I think it's a great mindset to have. Like, your worth as a player, but I also took things very personally, and hindsight, it's not personal. It's never. And so I ended up like looking back, I loved my college experience. It's pretty difficult emotionally, but after my college experience, like I graduated during COVID. I made some of my best friends on Instagram. Like we love Instagram. They were at the time were playing at the University of Hawaii,
Okay.
and we got really close. Like when they would come play in California, I'd go see them, we'd hang out. Then if I played at UH, like we'd hang out, all this good stuff. And so then COVID hit and I went to visit them, like we planned a little vacation. And they were like, stay, stay. And I'm like, dude, I have school, I can't stay. Like when I have class on Monday. And they were like,
Yeah.
okay, if it goes online, like if your class, just stay. And I think that Sunday night, all our classes went online, like COVID hit,
Wow.
officially hit. They're like, no.
So this was your senior year?
Yeah, so this was my senior year. We had already, okay, so we had almost finished the season. We were good. Like we had just made it to the finals and we were supposed to play for the championship and then COVID hit. And
Mm.
like, oh my God, this is a movie. There's no way this is real. Like my team struggled for 3 years and then our last year we make it and something
Mm.
COVID happens and we just, don't get.
And it was the conference tournament?
It was the conference
Okay.
tournament.
Tough.
It was tough, but then I ended up like going to Hawaii. I ended
Mhm.
up staying there for like several months. Never wanted to pick up a basketball again after college. I was burnt out, I was exhausted, but I ended up signing overseas for a year. I had a friend, she's like, just play one season overseas. Like, come on, like it's really the best paid, it's almost like a paid vacation. Like it's the
Yeah.
best experience. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Then months later, I was like, okay, I graduated into like the worst job market. I know I want to go to dental school. Don't have the grades yet. Like I know it's gonna be a journey. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Like I'll come. So I ended up signing a contract to play overseas. I was only gonna play 1 year. I ended up playing 3, and it
Wow.
was by far like the most amazing experience. Honestly, I could have ever imagined it to be.
Yeah.
Um, and then now my basketball career is over, and I'm in dental school.
Wow. That's awesome. That's such a great kind of general background and like history leading into this conversation of just like knowing all of that stuff about you. And you mentioned a lot of interesting points throughout maybe like the experience that you had, and specifically one of like it was very college basketball was very emotionally challenging for you. And you mentioned some things about like having an ego, but and also like kind of like a victim mindset. Can you go a little bit more into those and what that felt like for you to experience all those things?
Yeah, of course. So I had a hard time in college, as I just said, like playing basketball. And a lot of the time we come out as players, we come out of high school, we come out of our experiences as the top of the top. Like
Right.
if you're going to play college basketball, you're probably the best, one of the best players in high school. And when you have this dense experience where people are always telling you, you're so good, you're the best, you're this, you're that, now your subconscious expects that same admiration. And so your goal setting is almost relying on that. So for me, when I went to play in college, I'd also come off a very good freshman year in college before I transferred. And then when I transferred, I didn't play. It was like all of these things that I've identified with for so many years were now worth nothing. People
Right.
weren't telling me I was, oh my God, you're so good. People weren't telling me your 3-pointer the other night, your shots won the game. Like, I wasn't getting that validation. And so I felt worthless almost.
Yeah, and that's so hard just for like the nervous system in general to experience. Like it's such a
Yeah.
like you're so used to one thing for so long, and then to be thrown into this new environment and not really having that, like not really having any direction or guideline as to how this next chapter is going to be, is I feel like something that they really don't prepare you for in college athletics, especially that high school to college, where
Yeah.
it's like you are a recruit, like they'll do anything for you, like they're flying out if the school's far, they're flying out, they're having dinner with your family, like they're treating you like the golden child, and then it's that first summer and you're
You're
just
not
together.
shit. You're nothing.
Yeah. So do you
Uh,
feel like you experienced that? Well, you said your freshman year was a really good freshman year, like stats wise.
yeah.
But do you still feel like you had that experience going into college and then also transferring?
So it was similar. Like I mean, I was recruited twice. So when I was recruited the second time, I still felt like I was going to a school where they wanted me. You want to go to a school where they want you. At 18, when I went through my first recruitment, you don't know it. You don't know your left from your right. Like you don't even know what you see something shiny and you're like, I'm gonna go there.
Yeah.
Someone's in your ear telling you you're the best I've seen in 10 years. And I'm really sitting there like, I am. And then players like Dejanay Carrington or like, Kelsey Plum, and you're like, then you step back and you're like, no, I'm not. But they make you
They make you think that. Yeah.
yeah. But my second time, yeah, I felt like I was this very important player coming in. Once I got there in the summer, it was not that at all. I had a really hard summer. I was crying to my parents every day. I'm like, I don't want to. I think I even like applied to the community college down the street because
Wow.
I was so down bad.
Yeah.
Uh, but then in hindsight, looking at it, it really shaped me to the person that I am now, as corny as it might sound. And you
Yeah.
played basketball in college, so like I feel like you could definitely relate to that. Like I feel like
Absolutely.
no experience is linear and they're all kind of tribulating in their own ways. But
The emotional distress that
Yeah.
happens during that time, especially when it's a transition. It's like you don't know, like, it's like maybe you feel like you're like a fish out of water. Like, there's so
Yeah.
many new things that you're trying to adapt to. And that in general is just so hard. Like, you're nowhere near your comfort zone. And also, when it's like,
We're all like in survival mode.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, we're all experiencing life for the first time, so we've never been through it. So now you're trying to figure it out, but no two people are going to figure out the same way. But the problem is, as school or as sports or as anything, we believe that this experience is one dimensional, and it's not. So, like, how I navigated it was very different than how my friends did. You know,
Yeah.
it's very different than how you did.
Were some of those ways that you feel like you got through the emotional distress?
So I read a lot of books. The one book that really helped me at the time was called The Power of Now. The ego isn't bad. Like, we all think this whenever someone says she has an ego is not a bad thing. It's just the thing in our subconscious that identifies with our entire experiences. So, like, every friend you've made, every person you've talked to, every store you've walked into, it comprises your ego. Right. So I'm tall, I'm an athlete, I'm now in dental school, I have a girlfriend, and I have a twin brother. So these things I identify with are part of my ego. And
Yeah.
so when we're trying to figure, like, when we're going through something really difficult, like college basketball, for example, it's something that your ego's trying to, like, it's now the difficult situation is new and it's unfamiliar and it's hard. And so we go through these depressive or angsty episodes, or like we're sad or we're frustrated, and we can't really identify or figure out why. So I really chose to kind of look inward, and everyone's experience is different. At the time, I didn't utilize like a therapist, and I didn't really have people I felt I could talk to, even though I had amazing people in my life. So I read a lot of books, and a lot of it talked about being where your feet are. So being present in your moment, in the moment that you're in, and trying to go in to out. So, like, if I was having a really difficult day in practice, I try and understand, why is my mind feeling so frustrated about this, and why is it making me so sad? And it sounds so obvious, but I think it's hard to really look introspectively in situations that are very adverse, but it really makes you a complete person, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just the work is very difficult. But yeah.
That is such a strength to be able to say that that was a coping mechanism that you developed at that age, because I feel like in college, especially, the traditional college experience is like, oh, partying, getting drunk a lot, turning to substances, whatever it is for like a typical college experience. And I feel like we see that in athletes a lot too. Like, we'll go to parties, we'll do that stuff, but sometimes the environment or whatever we're going through can be so bad that athletes turn towards those different forms of substances, maybe. And to feel like that's like letting loose or to be able to cope. But for you to say that you started to read and you wanted to learn more about what it was that you were experiencing and why you were experiencing it is so cool to hear. I feel like that's not really something that people can relate to or can say that that was their experience. And going inward and learning all the things that you learned through reading. And I like how you said being where your feet are. That's something that I feel like I'm learning more now as being a therapist. But was that ever hard for you? Because I know, especially studying trauma in my work, it's really hard to be where your feet are because your body feels safe. And I think that that's something that I kind of experienced in college. My background is like, I'm a hard worker. At my work ethic, that was what I was raised on, especially being a walk-on. Like, that was something that I always had to have because I felt like, I mean, for better or for worse, if it was for myself or it was performative, like to make myself feel like I belong there, to like show, whatever it was, that was always something that I had in the back of my mind. So I was always felt like I was mentally tough in it, being in practices, training, extra workouts, whatever it was. But for me, it was so hard to be where my feet were because I didn't feel safe and I didn't feel comfortable. So did you ever have that experience? And if you did, what was that like for you? Like, how did you overcome that?
I think it's safe to say every college women's basketball player has not felt safe in a moment. It's such a difficult 4 years, very rewarding, very fulfilling, very difficult. But I was very fortunate where, like, my teammates really were my best friends. So whenever, and I think that there's also a lot of trauma that I have from basketball, just from feeling worthless, or like also being a people pleaser my entire upbringing. There was a lot to learn regarding that.
Yeah.
But I did feel unsafe in a lot of ways because it's very unfamiliar. It's very uncomfortable to be. It's a sport that pretty much you're destined to fail at. We shoot 30%, that's a good percentage. It's an F. Any exam, it's an F, right? So a lot of the times I would just sit and I'd want like I just want to cry. Like I would just want to release it. And then I would sit, and what helps me is, and what helped me at the time was, like, we feel like anxious, right? Or frustrated or sad. Like in that moment, I would feel so just chaos in my mind. And what I would do is I would look outside as the observer of my thought. So if I felt that I was really anxious right now, I would pretend, it sounds so dumb, but it really worked. But I imagine myself in my brain, like my little cute little dark self, like moving, crying, anxiety, all this. But the person observing it is also me, but like a white, comforting, like,
Yeah.
you know. And so because I'm that observer watching this chaotic figure that's unfortunately myself, fortunately we're a complete person, it really helped me a lot. And then I would just keep telling myself, be where your feet are. So like I would tap my toes, or like and I can literally remember those moments, like now talking about it. If I'm at the 3-point line, I'd be like, and I would just tap my toes on the line. And I honestly use that overseas. I use that in exams now. Like it was a practice that ended up shaping parts of my life that were unrelated to basketball. But it also took me out of those moments where I did feel very like unseen, unheard, unsafe, provoked.
I think that is so insightful. And that is such a huge part of the therapeutic process, too. And what therapists should try to encourage their clients to do is seeing problems kind of as that external force. Like I know when we were studying couples therapy, talking about the problems between each individual and not attaching the problem to that other individual, and seeing it as, like, my professors would say, like, help them see it as like kind of like a mosquito, something that's really annoying and something that's happening outside of them, and not something that one person owns or the other person owns, or even yourself. Even when it comes to struggling with anxiety or depression or trauma, not having that really be a part of not having that be your whole self, but just a little part of it and something that you're dealing with, but you don't have to have like that ownership over it. And it reminds me of this quote I just pulled up on my phone, but I'm reading right now a book called Many Lives, Many Masters.
Oh my God, read it and it's in.
I haven't finished it yet.
Oh my God, it changed my life. Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah. So the author is a psychiatrist. The book is about working with a patient who has like very severe depression, OCD, a bunch of different symptoms. But one of the quotes that he said in it was, patients almost always improve when they remember unpleasant influences from their past, when they learn to recognize and correct maladaptive behavior patterns, and when they develop insight and view their problems from a larger, more detached perspective. And reading that was like, oh my God, this is what I want all of my clients to know about therapy, or just working through whatever issues they have, because it's not like, you see so many of the times people develop like these self-fulfilling prophecies almost, and kind of going back to the ego, like you were saying, whether it's good or bad, like there could be great self-fulfilling prophecies, but if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy from trauma where you develop these like negative core beliefs about yourself, and then you start to own them and start to act within them, that's when it can kind of be that negative side to it.
And it's also such a distorted reality. Like that's
Yes.
not the thought reality. It's your own perception that's not real.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times what we think is personal is not at all
Right.
personal.
And I think there definitely is some limitations to it, especially like if we bring in the aspect of like if there is actual abusive coaching happening, that is hard because it is, that's when it can feel personal, but being able to get yourself the right resources and develop the right mindset. And then also, we can only control so much. And if we feel like we're controlling our thoughts and we're controlling the way that we enter environments and our mindset about certain problems, conflicts, whatever, and that's still not enough, then, you kind of know like, okay, maybe it's time to remove myself or find a different program or whatever it might be. So also knowing that balance too of like, okay, I'm doing everything I can and it's still not working. So maybe this just isn't the place or isn't the sport for me. Like, do you feel like you ever had those moments too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Like I contemplated transferring 1,000 times. And I had a friend who transferred for the third time. Both are great options. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
which one. For me, I always had this like it's good that I'm here. It's gonna challenge me. It's gonna make me uncomfortable. And sometimes it's that it doesn't have to be like that. You know, like
Yeah.
if I had transferred, I probably would have had a great experience somewhere else because it's not the circumstance that you're in genuinely. And I know it sounds like a fat cliche, but it's people that you meet in those experiences. So like, I mean, my point in saying all of that is, yeah, I've had those thoughts
Yeah.
and they're very distorting. And a big thing is being able to remove yourself from being the thinker. And then once you look outward, like outside looking into the situation, a lot of people are how they are. And I say this about coaches because of their own experiences.
Yeah.
And so I think by my like junior year, I realized this isn't personal. Like I was able to detach and kind of like look at it for what it was objectively and realize my coach is not a bad person. My coach doesn't hate me as a person. Our style of play just is not aligned.
Yeah.
And what it is. However, someone else navigates it, it is their own narrative, it's their own story, and it's their own right. So for me, this worked, but I've had friends where they've gone to other schools and for that worked, and they've had the most amazing experiences. Yeah, so I think it just depends. But for me, this worked.
Yeah, and that's awesome, and it's a way to really develop that, like, mental resilience and mental toughness for yourself, and using that experience to get through other parts of life outside of basketball, whatever it might be, and developing those tools as a young athlete, going into your womanhood and being able to implement them in those life challenges too. This episode is sponsored by PhysioWorks Physical Therapy. Sports aren't just about skill, it's about strength. And I'm not just talking about physical strength. Athletes train their bodies, push their limits, and build muscle to perform at their best. But what happens when injury strikes, or when movement just doesn't feel right? That's where PhysioWorks Physical Therapy comes in. PhysioWorks isn't just about recovery, it's about unlocking your full potential. Their expert team helps you rebuild strength, improve mobility, and prevent future injuries so you can get back to doing what you love. Because strong muscles create strong athletes. At PhysioWorks Physical Therapy in Redondo Beach, California, they understand that true performance is both physical and mental. A strong body fuels a strong mind. And when both are in sync, that's when you truly win. I know mental training in general in sports is becoming a much bigger topic, and mindfulness in sports is kind of making its way up there too, which I'm a big proponent for. Would you consider this stuff within the mindfulness realm, or did you have any mindfulness practices while you were competing as an athlete?
Yes. And it's honestly what got me through it. In any facet, not just sports, any facet of my life that I've experienced, I've taken the practices I've gained from reading The Power of Now. For example, in my junior year, my first non-retro year of college, to like now my profession in dentistry.
Yeah.
And so what worked for me is I think meditation is amazing. I'm now a little less consistent with it, but my first year overseas, I meditated a lot. And it got me through, and even now it's gotten me through. Like what I did 2 years ago is affecting me now, even though I'm not as consistent, even though I'm not as intentional. What being mindful gains or provides us is a more like ethereal perspective on life. So we don't just view ourselves as this like physical being. You are able to look at yourself as a spirit and understand like everyone is like from the same ocean, just a separate wave.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so people are like, okay, yeah, it's good for like mindfulness and quieting the mind, but the things you gain from it are so profound and it sounds so loony, but it's so real. I use my relationships now. Like, I think the biggest practice that I have is the idea that like if I look at someone else, I try and look at them at eye level. So like namaste. We go to core power. Like I just went to a hot eight class with my girlfriend yesterday. And at the end they say namaste, right? But what it means is I see myself in you and you in myself. And so you go out into the world and you don't view yourself as better or less than anyone. You view yourself as the same. So what does that absolve? Comparison. Because now you're not insecure about where you're at in your life because you shouldn't be. And also competitiveness. Who are you to be better than someone else? Like I think the most important thing is competing with myself. I think that helped a lot in sports because we're in a competitiveness, like sports are very competitive.
Yeah.
But I think in competition, the idea behind it is if I want to win, I almost have to prey on someone else's downfall to get there. And so it's great in sports. Like you want to go win a final, yeah, someone has to go down for you to win a championship. So fuck it. But
Yeah.
when it translates into my life, I'm competitive with myself. I'm not competitive with anyone else. But yeah, so
I want to get into that competitiveness a little bit more, but before we do that, you said something really awesome of what you were doing 2 years ago helps you now. And I think that is what our biggest message with mental training room is too, is really training your brain like you train your body, because your brain can act as a muscle. The brain is such a beautiful and complex thing, and I love it so much. And meditation is literally training the brain. Like if you do it consistently, and not, I don't do it consistently, but there's also different forms of like mindfulness that you can practice, of like whether it's mindfulness activities or whatever it might be. There's different.
Really, mindfulness walks.
Yeah, exactly.
Mindfulness walk is great.
And that one is so great too, because it uses both sides. Mindfulness, when we're talking about mindfulness activities, the best type of mindful activities are the ones that use both sides of your brain, because then you're really focused on whatever that is, and you don't really have an option to do any, like to think about anything else, because if you do, then you're not going to be doing what's in front of you. Like you're not going to be where your feet are. But parts of meditation that I think are so cool is like it will really, if you do it consistently, it will shrink your amygdala, which is the emotional like regulation kind of part of your brain. And it can also increase your prefrontal cortex, which is like the decision making. And so it'll expand that and help you with decision making, with emotional regulation, all of that stuff. And all of that in return, like as an outcome, will help you be more present. And I think why mindfulness is so awesome for athletes is because we are in such a high emotional state a lot. And going back to the competitiveness, is that triggers so many emotions within us. And sometimes we, like, the emotions can cloud everything else that's going on. And then we act impulsively. And it's really interesting. Emotions only really exist for like 90 seconds, but it's the actions and then the like thoughts that we attach with them that can then make them feel like they're lasting even longer. So for example, in basketball, like if a ref makes a bad call, like obviously you're going to be frustrated, but if you kind of just let that emotion pass, it's not going to like really affect you as much. But then if you go and you're like talking to the ref, or like you throw your hands, whatever it might be, that's when it can feel more than what it actually is. But mindfulness, if you do that off the court, it can help you when you're in those high emotion or intense environments.
I think who you are is, I always say this, I'm like, you are, like, you know who someone is based on how they respond in their most adverse
Yeah.
circumstances,
Yeah.
right? So what brings out the most adverse part of yourself? A basketball game.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter, you're down by 3, a ref calls a foul that's clearly not a foul.
Yeah.
And you're like, and it comes out, and that's fine. But I think Joe Dispenza I don't know if, do you know Joe Dispenza? So he was this chiropractor who got in an accident, paralyzed, I think neck down, honestly. And he's like, if I can reconstruct my vertebrae, nerves, endings, arteries, the whole nine from start to finish, and my toes wiggle, I'll quit being a chiropractor. I'll devote the rest of my life to mind body practice.
Mm.
And it took him like 6 months. He's amazing. It took him like 6 months, and he did it, and his toes moved. And he's
Wow.
like, if I had a patient like this, I would say, yeah, you're done, bro. Like, you're never walking again. And he did. And so, anyways, he's like this mindfulness guru, honestly. And he talks about your threshold. So, how long does it take you from when when you emotionally react to something to when you're okay? And then how long does it take you to like remove the grudge, right?
Mm.
And so the shorter your threshold is, the more mindful you are in those circumstances. The more I meditated, the more I found my threshold lessening. Like if someone, for example, if I was upset about a basketball game, it would linger. Like I would sit on this ref's call for like days, and I couldn't let it go. And then that was in college. And then by the time I finished like my last game overseas, we went to the finals again, lost by like 4. It was like second year in a row. It was crazy. I was over it like maybe a couple hours after the game. I was fine. It was really, I attribute it to like my mindfulness practices and my ability to like lessen that threshold. If someone frustrates me and I get angry, it takes me 5 seconds. I'm like, you know what? I'm actually good. It's fine. And I forget about it, and I don't hold on to it. And it's not a flex, it's a practice. And some years are better than others. Like this year, I'm having a harder time integrating those ideas into my life because I'm in a high stress environment. But last year, I was very, very, very like pinnacle of how my mindfulness was. So how you said, like how you talk about like this is a practice and like it's like a mind gym.
Exactly.
It really is, but it lingers. And like what you do in your early 20s will foster in your early 30s and then from so on and so forth. But Joe Dispenza is amazing. Like,
So
yeah.
cool. Well,
Well,
how do you think the mindfulness part when you're talking about the competitiveness, one, what did you struggle with most when it came to like the competitive culture in college athletics or just sports in general? And how do you feel like mindfulness helped, if at all, or anything else that you learned through that or that helped you get through those tough times when it came to the competitive culture?
I always felt kind of out of place because I was never as competitive as my friends or my teammates were.
Okay.
And I would struggle with that. I'm like, why after losses, like if the ref called a bad call on me, that would linger.
Mhm.
But if we lost, it wouldn't affect me as intensely as it would my teammates.
Yeah.
And I felt guilty of it and I felt ashamed of it. I'm like, why does it not affect me? And I think it's because my people have their passions. Like people are passionate about crocheting and knitting and, you know, school or whatever it is. I love people. And so I think for me, when there were instances of competitiveness or like there are instances of just like an intense situation, I always try to be like, okay, why are they like why did they feel like this? Where could it stem from? Where
Yeah.
they play you? Did they play Cal Sparks? Did they play West Coast Premier? Both are
Yeah.
pretty. Did they play Mom and Pop's team? You know, like there was just all of these things that I would consider, and I'm like, okay, they're allowed to be upset. If I had missed a three, airballed a three, because it's very likely. If I'd airballed a three, I'd be like, okay, they're upset with me. I mean, they're pretty competitive. Like I can understand that. You know, all those things. I think my ability to understand those facets of people helped me not feel as guilty, but it also made me feel like I was very out of place in a competitive environment. And also, I don't I brought up how like when you're competing with someone, you almost prey on their downfall. It comes up in every facet of life. I don't know if you've experienced it in your school, like when you went to school, like with therapy and stuff like that, but a competitive environment is fostered everywhere. And
Mhm.
so I think now what I experience is dental school and med school, they have like there's a notorious reputation where it's like Grey's Anatomy. Like the competitiveness is crazy, right? But I don't compete with anyone, not because I'm better or less than, but because I genuinely I don't want you to fail. I don't care for you to fail. And if I compete with you and I want this position over you, I inherently need to understand like, okay, well, you're gonna fail if I'm gonna win, you know. And I'm not. That's not the person that I am, and I'm not guilty of it anymore. I'm not ashamed of it. I have no one to compete with. You'll end up exactly where you're supposed to in your life. But at the time, like in my past, it was a difficult thing to kind of understand and navigate on my own.
I can kind of relate to that too in the sense of the not taking on a loss
Mhm.
as heavy as maybe teammates or especially coaches, but mostly teammates. And I don't know, I mean, I think the most I played in a game was versus Santa Barbara my senior year.
Yay!
But we had like everyone was going down. I don't know what was happening. I played like 35 minutes that game, and that's the most I ever played. But like that was like insane because I would maybe get in for like the last 2 minutes of whatever it was. But so I didn't play a lot, and I think that that's maybe where my lack of or my lack of attachment to what happened in a game came from. But also I think having that perspective of like a bench player is seeing how much it affected my teammates and seeing how much, I mean, they were amazing. They are amazing people, basketball players, going through their own
Yeah.
stuff with our coaches and whatever it was. Seeing how they attached to it and it how distressed it made them feel. And I was able to witness it of like, okay, just because you're attaching that extra stress to it, like it's not changing the outcome at all. Like it's only making your situation less
After the fact.
enjoyable for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's always the perspective I tried to, um, like share with my teammates. And I was always the like positive, consistent
Yeah.
energy, like Haley always has to bring the energy, whatever. Like toxic, looking back at the time, it was definitely exhausting, but I knew it needed to be done. So I always tried to like spread that message to them too of like, yes, it's good to care and it's good to have that competitive spirit in the game, but after Like there's unless you
It's done.
yeah,
It's
and that's
done.
why it's like always play 110%, play like it's your last game because then after like you did everything you could. Like you were in the gym, I get it if maybe they're like I should have worked harder before, like I wasn't prepared. But if you feel prepared and you did everything you could, there's no reason to attach those negative thoughts after the fact. It's just about reframing and like, okay, how can I do better next time so this doesn't happen again?
If you feel like this as well, but it's illusionary. So like, once the game's over, it's over. Not the game you just played. Yeah, you can rewatch the film, you can tweak it and find ways to be better as a player.
Yeah.
But the game's gone. Now it just lives in your memory and it's not relevant anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you're like head to head for like the final toll at the
Right.
end of the season, but like it really is not, it doesn't hold much weight anymore. But only and that idea is as heavy as we believe it to be. So if someone doesn't align with that, that's okay.
Right.
They're entitled to their own ideas. Just I don't know if you resonate with it, but that's what helped me move past it. Like what you said about attachment's really interesting because like I also didn't play a lot and I until I went overseas and I also was very like kind of detached to the result, more attached to like my teammates' experiences that I wanted them to have a good experience. So but I've never heard it that way and I think you just put my thoughts to words after like 10 years of trying to figure out what it was.
Amazing. I love that.
Right, because my college career, like I didn't play a lot, and then I went overseas and I played a lot, and it was cool. I played with like amazing players, like it was a great experience. But I, for the first time, felt like I played a role in the competitiveness of like where my team wanted to get to because I was playing, So I was now not detached from the experience, but attached to it. But I still felt after the games like it was, okay. So it's interesting.
I love that you said that I put words to your thoughts because
Yeah.
I tell my therapist that all the time. I'm like, thank you. Like you just put exactly what I was thinking into something that makes sense and then it helps me deal with it more. So I love that. When you were in college and you kind of mentioned earlier that you feel like you were like burned out, especially towards the end of your senior year, but then you decided to go play overseas, which is a huge commitment, especially for someone if you're feeling like you're burned out of the sport. What do you think changed for you in the time after playing in college to then signing an overseas contract? Like how did your view of the game evolve in those
So college is a really high stress environment. And as much as I keep saying that, I loved it. But it's a very high stress environment and it burns you out. You're from 11 to 6 every single day for 4 years is just basketball, depending on when your practice schedule. Ours was 11 to 4 and then film and treatment and all of that. And you're exhausted and you lose your love for the game. You don't want to touch it anymore, especially if you're not playing as much as you want to or you're not getting the results you are working for. Everyone's experience is different. But when I lived in Hawaii, I was there for 9 months and it was the most amazing experience. I lived with three girls one girl played at Long Beach State and two were playing and so I was still around basketball, but without the competitive, like without like I don't want to say toxic, but almost like toxic culture of having to be overworked and if you're not working while you're sleeping, someone's working. While you're not training, someone's lifting. Like I wasn't in that anymore. And so I could organically refine and reframe my perception of the game. And we would play at like not every day, maybe like 2 3 times a week. It would be like 40 girls on the island and we'd all go play pickup at the park. But mind you, it's Hawaii, so the view is beautiful. It's like a different experience. It was so light and fun, and you still had girls who were really good at basketball. Hawaii breeds like really amazing basketball players. And so you had these girls who could play and it was fun and it was a healthy form of competitiveness. Like it was just everything you could want in the game. It's like high school all over again.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, okay, like I had a friend play overseas. She was still there. She was telling me it's not like college at all. She found her love for the game again too. So I'm like, I'm gonna try for 1 year. And I'm Israeli, so I have a passport. And so because I had a passport, I'm not considered an import. And you can have 3 foreign players per team.
Okay.
They're gonna take 3 from the WNBA. Like they're not gonna take like Israel has like a lot of players from the W come in. So I would never ever be able to sign there had I not had a passport. So I ended up going and it was when I was there, the training is different, the culture is different. I was playing with players I never in my life thought I would play with, who now ended up are my closest friends in my life. So it was just a very unparalleled experience, like 2 different experiences, both forming me into what I aspire to become as a complete person.
Right.
but very different. And I love it every day.
Yeah, it is so interesting that experience that I feel like it's kind of part of like the grieving process of losing the sport or like retiring from the sport because I think it's safe to say that any college athlete, no matter what sport it is, will probably experience burnout in their 4 or now maybe like
And it's
years college.
it's
I don't think there's any way to really avoid that. And if anyone hasn't experienced that, like please share.
let us know.
Yeah, but I think it's good to know that that might happen because then it allows you to really have the part of the sport that you resonate and connect with on a deeper level.
And honestly, like I don't you probably feel the same. Like I love that I experienced all of that. And I think
Oh, yeah.
burnout is important. Now we really you can work for anyone. You can work for any boss, you can work in any environment. In dental school and med school, what we hear a lot is athletes become the best healthcare, not the best, let me rephrase that. It's become great healthcare professionals because you're able to work in a team-based setting, you're good under adverse situations, you're good off, like off the whim. So like if you have to pivot, you have to adapt, you're very adaptable. And I think it's because we worked so hard and to a point where like you're really just like, I don't know how to say this in like a good way. Like you're so overworked, but I don't think overworked is the right word. But I don't know how to explain it. Like you're so small that like you really could just do anything because you're like, okay, I have nothing left to lose. Like I really could just go and be good at this and this and this and this, and you're good at multitasking. So
I feel like it makes you one resilient and then also like going off of resilient, like very adaptable to different situations because your threshold for uncomfortability is so high. And that allows you to enter different spaces or environments and you're used to being out of your comfort zone. And that is what maybe makes, being in those other spaces a little bit easier for athletes than it does people who didn't have that collegiate athlete experience. But on the topic of the burnout and the love of the sport, I think it's important for athletes to have maybe a practice that allows them to connect back with what it is that they love about the sport. And whether it's like, I know because I was close to home, so I would always take some of my teammates, like we would go back to my high school and play against the high school girls, which was always just fun and like confidence booster. Or one of my coaches had me write like a love letter to basketball one time and it was so emotional. I mean, I think it was a testament to the emotional experience I was having at that stage, but I think it's such a cool practice to have. It's also a mindfulness practice too. Like you're not just going through the motions, you're being intentional about it and reminding yourself why you're here and not taking your experience and associating that with the sport in general. Like being able to detach the sport and maybe your experience or the stressors or the challenges that you're going through. But yeah, those are all really cool things. And like you said, the connecting with the sport after college too in a different way. I feel like I hated watching women's basketball when I was.
Oh my God.
Did you hate it?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like I was no.
I was like,
Oh, but we're like,
yeah, no, I can't. Before this,
yeah.
you said you were like 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, I more time to watch the UCLA game. Like it's such a like evolution process, I feel like, of the game that the role that it plays in your life.
And it's awesome. Like
Yeah.
it's honestly the lens you choose to perceive it with. So like
Yes.
for me, basketball was a hard journey, but I loved it and it literally formed me into the person I am today. And I would do it from start to finish all over again the same way. Because who your teammates are, who your friends are, what you experience, where you play, like all of these things make life feel so beautiful
Yeah.
because like you're experiencing things that are so raw and so real.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
definitely do it over again too. I just wish I had the tools that you just mentioned. I love how you're saying that, it's made you to who you are and you've learned so much from it. So now that you're done with basketball, and I know you've mentioned dentist school a little bit, but what are you up to now?
Now I'm in my second year of dental school. I love it. It's very hard, but it's a good hard, just like basketball is a good hard.
Yeah.
Um, the other day I was having a conversation with my girlfriend. We were like talking about passions, and she was explaining like her passion is community, but that's a non-traditional passion. And most people are passionate about like form things. So like,
Yeah.
I'm passionate about basketball, or I'm passionate about journaling and stuff like this. But her passion's community, and mine is people. So what I love about dentistry and why I pursued it is because you're just around people all day. And people
Yeah.
who it's a very altruistic profession. So like I'm giving, expecting nothing in return. And I think
Yeah.
there's so much fulfillment to be had in that. Yeah. So I love it. I miss basketball, but unless for me, like it was not like a long-term career because it's a hard lifestyle. Like I love playing overseas, but I want to get married. I want to start a family and like I want to settle down and I want to nest somewhere.
Yeah.
And I've always loved science, so I know it was my end game. But
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, with everything that you shared with us today, if you could go back to any time throughout your basketball career, what is something that, having the insight of how it all turned out, what is something that you'd want to share with your younger self?
oh my God, it all works out. Like, if my 18-year-old little tall self knew what her 27-year-old self, by the time she was 27, what she would have seen and experienced, she would think it was a lie, not real. Like, my experience overseas was very unreal. Like,
Mm.
I played with some of the best players in the world and some of the coolest people in the world. And what I learned from them is what I would tell her is like, whatever people have succeeded at, what they've achieved, what rewards they've gotten, what their status is, what their title is, amounts to nothing. Like when I was younger, I was more insecure. I was like, okay, I'm not the best on my team. Like I'm not, like what can I provide? Like, am I even providing anything? It was a very conditional and transactional perspective to life. What I've learned throughout my years is it's the opposite.
Mm.
Will find people who love you just for you,
Yeah.
because of who you are, like because you're informal and quirky, because you're this like like you love things that are just like very out there, so I would tell her that. And I think a really cool way that I approach my life now that I didn't when I was younger is the idea of like there's no meaningless coincidences ever.
Mhm.
And I wish I could have taught her that I say I wish, but I think everything we experience in our life is in divine timing and how it's supposed to come to fruition. So I don't know if I would tell her this, but I would love for her to know this. Where like your everything is exactly how it's supposed to be and unfolding exactly when it's supposed to. And so in every rejection and every failure you experience, it's for a reason. And
Mhm.
how do you know it's for a reason? Because people are like, everything happens for a reason. I was like that. I'd be like, no, it doesn't happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And how I know is coincidences. So like if I'm going to if I go take an exam and I barely studied for it and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fail this thing, can't wait. And then I take the exam and I don't do well and I'm like sad and I'm just sitting and wallowing and crying. That morning, this is a crazy example, but like it's one that I love.
Yeah.
That morning when I left to go take the exam, I saw a lady with a blue sweater walk by, right? And then I go and I walk and I take the exam and I fail it. And then I sit and I'm sad for like 15 minutes, right? Otherwise, I would have left right away. I'm sad for
Yeah.
15 minutes. Then I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go and cry at my apartment instead. I walk out of the school building, same lady in the blue sweater walks by. And what it does for me is all my anxiety, it's like I farted out my anxiety. The other airplanes like
Yeah.
like let it and I'm just, oh my God, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I was meant to fail that exam. Like I was meant to be here. I was meant to go through whatever it is I was going through. Like I didn't get into dental school the first time. It took me a lot. It took me like 4 years to get in. That's why I played overseas for so long. Also loved it, but I just couldn't
Yeah.
I didn't have the grades. Like I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
But every time I was rejected, I was excited because I'm like, okay, what is this year gonna bring me this time? Because
Yeah.
every time I've not received something I've wanted, I've gained such good fortunes through them. And I didn't get in last year. My brother, I have a twin brother, and he got in easily. My younger self would be like, "How do you get in? That's
Yeah.
crazy. Oh, now I have to wait another year and all this money I paid to apply." But I didn't feel that. I felt very excited. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't get in. Okay, cool. Like, what's next?" And I ended up having the greatest year overseas. I played with like Natisha Heidemann, Liz Cambage, Shatori Walker, Kalani Brown, like, and not because they're these amazing players, which they are, but because they're incredible human beings. And like I befriended people like Alicia Clark, who I idolized as a freshman in college. I used to be like Alicia, and then now she's my friend, and I'm just like,
Wow.
and not because of who they are. Like now we're friends. Who know
Yeah.
if I would have met you had I not gone through those things.
Yeah.
So it's like every rejection I've experienced has opened 5,000 doors and it always will. It's just choose to look at it like that. And are we open to the miracles and the coincidences that come and foster from them? So I think all of that is what I would tell her. And I would hope that she would be open-minded to just being like, "Oh, cool, okay, cool." I'll, like, lock it in and then hopefully, maybe I'll experience that one day.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That is just such a beautiful perspective to have on life because I feel like it really helps us not try to grasp too hard onto one thing and just allowing the opportunities to come. And again, kind of going back to the attachment of not attaching too much meaning, especially negative meaning, to these experiences or to whatever it might be that we're going through. I feel like that's a very nice way to kind of like float through life, but also not just float like you can be pushed around, but float in a way that you are still in control of your emotions, behaviors, experiences, whatever it is.
And truly, like, every time I failed, or I don't know if you can also look back, like, when you've had something that didn't go your way, if when I was younger, I wouldn't look. You have to look for coincidences, it's not just gonna come. Sometimes they do the crazy miraculous ones, but
Yeah.
you have to want to find them. I one time sat on a step eating like a wrap after I just like honestly bombed a practical, which is like our teeth exams. Like we like have to practice like glorified art.
Yeah.
And I was so upset and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to my favorite place. It's like out of the way, not anywhere near my school. And I was sitting and visiting my girlfriend, and then I'm eating my wrap, and my umbrella flies away, and out loud I'm like, I'm not getting up to get this umbrella right now. Like this is not right now. And as I say that, the cutest girl in my school, her name is Joyce. She goes, "Paul," and I go, "What?" And she's like, "This your umbrella?" And I go, "This isn't my life right now." And it normally I would be like, "Okay, that was a really cute thing that happened," but no, it was an insane coincidence, like insane. And it could be small. It could be like you thinking about the color yellow, and then all of a sudden you go to a coffee shop and everything in the coffee shop's yellow. But it really just shows you exactly where you're supposed to be. And it doesn't matter like where or what or who or when or why. It doesn't matter what external physical thing happened in our life. It doesn't hold weight because your life is as intentional and as abundant and as beautiful as that you allow it to be.
And that's a wrap for today's session in the mental training room. If you found value in this episode, make sure to subscribe to our show, share it with a teammate, friend, parent, or anyone you think would benefit from listening, and follow us on Instagram at mtr.pod.
We'll catch you next time inside the mental training room. If you are currently experiencing a mental health crisis, please dial 988 for emergency support.